Well, let's transition a little bit into community, because, like you said, and Angela echoed this, and I was actually kind of surprised to hear it. There's 100 racers in Mexico.
It's difficult to know because I think many of us or many pilots out there don't even know about the races we do
Mm-hmm.
or organizations such as FPV Racing Mexico does. So I think there are several little communities that are either racing whoops or uh, freestyle quads
Mm-hmm.
or racing quads that are not connected to the communities that are
Sure.
there in Mexico. So it's a difficult question, but I will say between whoopers because with a Mexican salary is more easy to buy a whoop,
Sure.
and more people have whoops, and there are some whoop racing,
Mm-hmm.
including that category. I will say maybe we are about 100 at least,
Okay.
maybe.
How
But
much? Well, go
yeah,
ahead.
no. But I was going to say maybe 5 inch. I
Mm-hmm.
will say 30 or 40 at the
Okay.
most. Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's not a huge amount, but that's still enough to give good competition.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and am I talking about only racers? Also, I mean, people that focus on racing because freestylers there are a lot more, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, uh, it's funny. I've had conversations about whether freestyle or racing is more difficult. And like, I'm a freestyle pilot. I'm not a racing pilot. I've actually pulled up race courses on The Sims just to see if I could do them. I'm terrible. But it's funny because talking to some of the racers that are also freestylers, everybody says, "Hey, you know, racing makes your freestyle better, and freestyle makes your racing better."
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so the disciplines kind of lean on each other. Now, I will say this: I flew a whoop a couple winters ago. I flew a whoop nonstop in the house, when it was just nasty outside, and
Yeah.
I don't feel like whoop flying made me a better 5-inch flyer, because I think they fly differently.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
but whoop racing is also fun in and of itself. So
It's so
um,
fun.
so now you have how many folks in your city that you practice with?
To that I practice regularly only one.
Okay.
His name is Rodrigo Cárdenas, and occasional pilots that join us, another. So maybe only three now.
Okay.
There are some recent people that actually last week reached to me. They are uh, plane RC plane
Yeah.
guys, and they hear about me winning this and say, "Hey, man, how expensive is getting into this? Can you help us get into this
Yeah.
FPV thing?" And I'm doing that now, helping them because they got the interest. So maybe we are going to grow to 6 pilots in next year or so.
So if there's only, I mean, being generous, if there's only 6 of you in your city, how far do
Yeah.
you have to travel to get to a race?
Well, the most of the races are held in Mexico City or State of Mexico, which is kind
Okay.
of the same zone.
Yeah.
It's 5 hours by car or 7 hours by bus,
Wow.
plus the traffic, because Mexico is one of the crowded cities in the world,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have to spend another 2 hours into getting to the from the bus station to the place. So
So
yeah,
so I mean that it's you and your friend.
yeah,
Was it Carlos?
Rodrigo Cárdenas.
Rodrigo. Okay.
Yeah,
And you guys are practicing on a very rigorous schedule,
yeah,
and you have to travel 5+ hours to get
yeah,
to the nearest race.
yeah.
That's a lot of dedication, man.
It is, and actually, because we are only two and we don't have that many gates,
Yeah.
we got with another community of FPV pilots in a city called Querétaro,
Mm-hmm.
is also like 2 hours, 2 hours and a half driving from here,
Mm-hmm.
and we have been there about maybe 20 times in this year. Sundays we've spent the whole Sunday traveling, flying, traveling back.
Mm-hmm.
But the benefit there is that we can actually build more a complete track with more obstacles,
Mm-hmm.
and practice with another 4 or 5 pilots that are
Mm-hmm.
on that community. So it makes I think it's worth it, or it has been worth. Yeah, but it's basically or practicing here with little gates or going to another city to race or practice with
Mm-hmm.
more.
Now, when you is there besides just racing, what's the flying like in San Luis?
Well, in San Luis, we have one of the biggest parks in Latin America. It's
Okay.
called Tangamanga Park, very huge, and it has actually an RC plane track. So I think from maybe more than 20 years ago, I will say,
Mm-hmm.
there has been this RC community of helicopters and planes. And when I got into this hobby, I approached to them and I asked if anybody flew FPV or whatever, and they will say, "No, no, drones are boring, man." And I will say, but it's not. They are not DJIs. They are this kind of drones, but they will say, "No, no, we're fine with our planes."
Yeah, right.
But well, I only spoke with 2 or 3 of them, and they say, well, if you want, you of course can fly with us, but you have to pay, I don't know, for the track of
Sure.
landing and so
Yeah.
on. And I say, okay, that doesn't make much sense because I can land everywhere I want
Mm-hmm.
in another spot.
Sure.
So I didn't join them because I also thought it didn't make much sense. Uh, but yeah, I will say that there's a medium to big community here in San Luis of RC hobbyists in planes, helicopters, and cars. Yeah, so
Do
there's
you
potential.
do
Mhm.
you one of the big things here in the U.S. we've got the AMA,
Yeah.
the and there's a big tension between the fixed wing plane guys, the heli guys, and the drone flyers. And it seems like the fixed wing and heli guys, they just want to go do their own thing, and they don't want the screaming, noisy FPV drones around them. Um,
Yeah.
is it different in San Luis, or is it about the same?
Well, I think because we haven't interacted so much,
Mm-hmm.
we are we are only 2 pilots in the whole
Oh well,
state.
yeah. I mean, that's true. Yeah.
uh, there has been no tension whatsoever. But
Okay.
uh, I think two of the guys that recently approached to me from San Luis Potosi that want to get into the hobby, they are actual RC uh, playing hobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when they get into the hobby, because I'm sure they will, they are so
Mm-hmm.
excited. They will speak to other of their colleagues that fly planes, and maybe even if they don't get into drones or racing or freestyle, at least I think they can try FPV in their planes, which I think
Yeah.
will open or yeah will give them a very different experience of what they have been doing for
Mm-hmm.
now. Not that it's better. I think everybody has the right to fly uh,
What and how they
what
want.
what they want, but at least try something different, right?
Um, have you ever heard of Sander Sass and Sassy FPV?
Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
so I interviewed him a while back, and he was one of the first guys in FPV, and this was in like 2010. And
wow.
they weren't flying, they weren't flying mini quads, they weren't flying quads, they were flying planes that they had attached cameras to with head tracking units that they could, kind of look around. Um,
Okay.
so there's definitely a lot of interest or possibility with the fixed wing, and I know there's a lot of guys here in the U.S. that are getting into fixed wing FPV specifically. With the Delta, the Triangle,
Yeah.
yeah, those which look like. I mean, I I have a couple guys here that want me to fly them, and I'm like, I won't. No, I can't afford to. I mean, I really want to, but no, I won't. um,
I try
so
one. It's great.
yeah,
Maybe next year.
I know one of my buddies, guy named Rob Garland. He's like, man, he's like, you fly a mini quad, and he's like, it's just pumping adrenaline the whole time, right? And he said, but when you fly a wing, he's like, you just kind of sit back and chill,
Yeah.
and you just enjoy the flight, and the flight's like 20 minutes long. And yeah, so he's almost convinced me, but don't tell him that. So but in this last year, how much time per week do you think you spent practicing with the
Uh,
community that you were able to put together?
yeah, I would say on weekends, maybe 6 to 8 hours, Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And during week, when it was summer, there's more sunlight,
Sure.
about 6 hours, and when it got darker and with the time schedule change,
Yeah, I hate that.
uh, maybe less,
Yeah.
3 hours, I would say, effective,
Mm-hmm.
per week. So in total, about 12 hours per week in average, maybe.
That's still a lot of time.
Yeah.
How many? I mean, how many? Like, if you had to estimate, how many packs did you go through? How much gear did you go through?
Per week, you mean?
Well, just in terms of like, obviously you can only fly so many flights on one battery,
Yeah.
before it just sags to oblivion.
Yeah.
So how many batteries did you go through? How many
Well,
cameras and motors and
yeah. Per session, maybe 10 packs or so.
okay.
And what we do here is we figure out a way to charge the batteries with the car, so
Mm-hmm.
we are charging and keep
Yeah.
flying.
Yeah.
And in the year, oof, a lot of motors, a lot of motors, a lot of quads. I don't want to make the sum because it will hurt to know, but yeah, definitely a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, not having raced, like I don't have it handy. I was flying the other day. I had mounted my camera. I had one of the mini cams, and when I mounted it, I mounted it backwards, so the camera was actually sticking a little bit in front of the drone. So
Okay.
whereas I should have mounted it with the TPU printed parts recessed, I
Yeah.
had the camera sticking out just a little bit, and I was like, I should totally fix that, but nah, I'm just gonna go fly. And sure enough, I hit a tree, and as soon as I hit the tree and I lost all video signal, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
no. But yeah, definitely, it's very interesting. I hear from the racers just about how many motors they take out on gates.
oof, yeah.
Yeah, just you hit a gate the right way, and it just warps the bell or breaks the motor itself. Or I have heard a lot of the Bando freestylers also go through motors, obviously,
Yeah.
because they're hitting concrete.
Yeah.
I fly in like grass and woods for the most part, so
Yeah,
um,
me too.
it's been a little bit gentler on me.
Yeah.
One thing, and this will be the final question on this. When I talked to Angela, she said that importing parts is problematic.
Yeah.
At least where she is. Is it as problematic for you, or do you run into the same problem she has with like taxes and things like that?
Well, yeah, of course. If I hadn't met the community that I met over the last year,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been so difficult to go to go ahead with this hobby as I went, because the most difficult thing to import here is the batteries, the
Mm-hmm.
LiPos.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, when you try to buy them from Chinese companies, they will cancel the order and say, no, we cannot ship.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some dealers from United States at the beginning of the year also didn't ship, and you say, okay, how I'm doing this? There are some pilots that help us get the the LiPos into Mexico, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
way that we are currently doing that. And I think there are also some American dealers that are shipping batteries, but only by ground.
Yeah.
So you still have to wait 2 or 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 weeks
I
until they
think
get.
Angela mentioned that PyroDrone.
Yeah, I think PyroDrone.
PyroDrone's
Yeah,
one of them.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's
That,
I I haven't. I mean, when I fly across country to go like to where my home office is, a lot of times I'll bring my quads with me, and so I just carry them on the plane. Um,
yeah,
but I always get reminded. I'm like, yeah, if these things go unpressurized, they turn into fireballs. So I can imagine getting lipos over there can be difficult because I mean they've either got to ship them to you or they've got to run them through the United States over
yeah,
ground. So
exactly. Or the other way is if you have a relative living in the United
right,
States,
yeah,
you can ask him whenever he comes to bring you some packs or some
yeah,
replacements, spare
yeah.
parts. Yeah,
It's totally different than
but
the
it's
U.S. for
getting
sure.
better. I have to accept or to say that it's getting better, or
Good,
it has. Yeah, it has been over the past year.
good.
Mhm.